In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. Always remember the first principle of this gospel. If you cannot make headway with the truth, attack the man. If you cannot make headway with the truth, attack the man. That's what they did. They could not refute what was done. How were they going to explain it? Okay, the blind man now sees. That's a problem for us. That's a big problem for us. We can't do it. It's never been written in the Bible or in our scriptures before, or in our histories, that it was done. So, let's take a look and see how it was done. No, it can't be done that way. And that man, no. No. I mean, the only thing that you can do is look at this gospel and see the world that we live in today. It's exactly the same thing. Truth is always sidelined when it comes to polity. It is very rare that you get truth coming from a lone source and it then sways or holds sway over everyone else. Usually we try to kill the people. I mean, if you think, in politics, a person who is speaking the truth, think about the Benazir Bhutto. Think about Martin Luther King. Think about, anyone that you like. Somebody who's speaking about something and it is not something that can be broken down and made fun of logically, because logically it stands. So they have to find some other means of attack. It's got to be something that, well, this goes against the whole tradition of our society and culture. So you make them an outcast. Or the person is a crackpot. The evidence that is being offered, you can't accept that evidence. It's a fiction. But here's a problem. They bring the guy to his parents. Is this your son who you say was born blind? All they had to do was ask the neighbors. I mean, how many witnesses do you think that there were of this child as he was growing up for perhaps 20 years amidst the entire village? And they go, there's the blind kid. When I was in Egypt, and people were always talking about the ma'alim, it means teacher. This is a word that means teacher. Well, in churches, it usually means a blind guy. And to give him value, if he happens to have a good enough voice, and he's apt to learn, he learns all the music of the church, because that's something that you can do with your ear alone. You do not need to see. As a matter of fact, we don't have a tradition in our church of music that is put into notes. We learn it. And I thought ma'alim meant blind man. Because they said, oh, that's the ma'alim, and the guy was going around with a stick. Or he had huge cataracts over his eyes or some other kind of a problem. And he knew the church so well that he didn't need any help because he was inside his own home, essentially. But this guy, I don't know what kind of a job he did. Everybody wants to be of use. Nobody just sits next to a wall all day long. So he must have done something, because blind people can be helpful. You could put wood on the guy's back and have him grab the tassel of your robe, hold the wood like this, the tassel like that, and follow you. Or he could carry water. There's a lot of things that a blind person can do. But there's no doubt that he can't do it by himself because he has no eyes. So here come the Pharisees. Now, where did the Pharisees come from? Did they just pop up from the ground? I mean, where do Pharisees always arrive on the scene? That's what I want to know. There's always a Pharisee around, right? It's just a symbol for the people that are threatened in themselves. Threatened. You know, John the Baptist said, he must increase and I must decrease. That's really the problem with the ego of humans. One of the things that Dr. Isaac Fanus, the iconographer of our church, was the most sad about is that he had not raised a significant number of disciples. There's only one clear disciple of Isaac Fanus, the iconographer who produced this work, Dr. Stepan Rene. And he's not a doctor because he calls himself a doctor, but he went to the Royal College of Art in London, the biggest place that you can go, the most prestigious place that you can go in London. And Dr. Isaac Fanus came from Egypt to oversee his work, which consisted of a dissertation and a project. In other words, an icon. So, several icons, as it turns out. But the point is that Dr. Isaac, for all of his ego and all of his importance, his real importance, he was sad. He was sad. I talked to him many times from 1990 until his death, but for more than 10 years I spoke with him many times. I had him in my home. We went out to eat together. I was in his home. And we spent hours and hours. And the saddest thing was he had not raised up significant disciples. A person who enjoys the truth always knows that the truth is something that has graced him and blessed him. He is simply a vessel into which it was poured. And it can be spilled. The Jews had this grace poured into them, and they spilled it out all over the land. To be a good vessel means not to leak. Not to let that which is in you become adulterated by a confusion of other things that might also enter into the vessel. It is a vessel that is meant to be kept pure. And it cannot be kept pure unless the thing that is put inside is sealed. This is why we have the Holy Spirit, and at the time of baptism, a person is chrismated 36 times. There is a seal, and the seal cannot be broken except by the arduous application of will from inside, saying, I no longer want that which fills me. I want something else. The Jews did that. You think about how the Lord struggled with the Jews. And he kept going back to them with more evidences. They fought so many wars. They had so many enemies at their gate, and yet he allowed them to prevail over and over and over. They didn't use the history of that particular experience to vivify the challenges that met them in the future. They forgot about those things as though they had no lessons to learn from them. We in America have the same problem today. We don't look at the wars that we have fought and understand the philosophical underpinnings about the success or the failures, and we do not bring the information forward very well. Just look at the hearings that are going on now with the Secretary of Defense. The man didn't even understand Obama's theory of containment. Primarily because there was no Obama theory of containment. But when asked something like that, you would expect, that there would be something totally lacking in the people that put the nomination forward And the man himself for accepting, not knowing himself, not knowing that he was unable and unfit. And believe me, his nomination will collapse. His nomination will collapse. But I digress. The thing that I want everybody to understand, because we've gone over this so many times and looked at the symbolism. The man is born blind. What does it mean? Everyone is born blind. No one sees, no one has light until the light of Christ enters into them. You enter into the relationship with the light as a living relationship, because God is living. And when you are brought out into the light, you are so changed that people say, as they did with the case of this blind man, is that he? Is that the one? Is that the blind guy? I used to say about a guy, he was so kind. He was just so kind. He let a blind man dress him. And it's because he had no sense of style, no taste. The colors that he put together were horrible, like orange and red and yellow. It looked like, a clown or a blind man. But could you imagine a man who was born blind, looked at his clothes for the first time and said, perhaps, yuck. I'm going to put some good clothes on. I'm going to, that would be something. Or he looked at his face in the reflection of a pool of water and he said, this hair's not working for me. This beard, where's the barber? Sure, a blind man is going to correct certain fundamental things about him because now he has an image. And these images that we have of ourselves, if they are sustained from within because of the knowledge of Christ and the light of Christ, then we are going to be more beautiful than otherwise would be the case. Even if we dressed in Armani, and even if we wore Rolex on our wrists, and even though we had the finest handmade shoes, it wouldn't be any more splendid than the man who dressed simply and carefully and with the dignity of God as his first command. So, the Jews, they did everything to move towards denying the truth. And you can imagine the man, how, having gotten this great gift, would want then to uphold the one who had given it to him. Wouldn't you feel beholding to someone if they gave you the thing that you had longed for? Seriously. He wanted to be able to say, when they asked him, who is he? I don't know. I don't know. It must have hurt to have made that confession. But look how honest he was. You see, this is the thing that attracted the Lord to him. And when we are young, my grandson has a kind of pugnacious relationship with several kids. And even at school, he told me as I went to pick him up that a squirrel bit him, and he wasn't pronouncing his words very well. It wasn't a squirrel; it was a girl. Bit his thumb, and he was holding it up for me to kiss and to make the sign of the cross and to bless. But they will say clearly, "Oh, Cyril bit me," or "Joshua bit me," or "Joshua bit the other Joshua," or something occurred. And they will say it as though they were saying, it's daytime. They will say it without affect, because when a person is honest and when truth is the primary thing, you don't need to couch it in any kind of emotion. You don't need to couch it in terms of making it seem less or greater or anything. It's just the plain, unvarnished truth. And this man was like that. He was a child still. The Lord gave him light, and he saw light, and he regaled at this new gift. It was something that was momentous in him. And so he was able to say what he knew to be true. This is indeed a miracle. Whether it's a miracle for you or not, it's a miracle for me. Now, who does miracles? Mere men? No. Mere men do not do miracles. Mere men may be the tool that the Lord uses to effect a miracle. Mere men may be the ones who bring a person to the point of receiving Christ, where a miracle may come. But mere men do not make miracles. Mere men are merely magicians, or they are dissemblers, people that are trying to let you think that they are more than they are, created beings from dust. But he said, he has to be from God. Look at this great, look, no one can know, except perhaps the paralytic of 38 years, or the leprous, or any of the others, the lame or the maimed. Only they would be able to look at him and say, we know the magnitude of that which ye have received. It has to be from nowhere else but above. This man is of God. So he said, well, no, he can't be of God. Can't be of God. Despite what you see, because he did it on Sunday. Or not Sunday. Sorry, speaking for ourselves. Saturday. He did it on the Sabbath. He did it on Saturday. You can't do such stuff on Saturday. You know, did they forget that that's the day that they pray? Did they forget that when everybody else is doing nothing, that the priests are working? In Israel, the Orthodox Jewry allow you to carry, I think it's 2 ounces on the Sabbath. If what you are carrying is greater than 2 ounces in weight, you have defiled the Sabbath by doing work on the Sabbath. And Jesus said what? If a guy's goat or sheep falls into a mud pit and can't get out, does the man not on the Sabbath even pull him out? And of course, it's normal. And if something would happen in your house, what would you do? You'd have to do it. You must do it. You'd be constrained to do it. Your humanity would compel you to do it, if nothing else. So, then we come to the castigation, finally, the ad hominem attack. You were completely born in sins, and now you're trying to teach us. You cannot possibly apprehend the truth. It is only we who have been already so graced. We will tell you what the truth is. And see, that's the problem. That's the problem. It has been tried for millennia in every institution that man has ever created. We will tell you what the truth is. Speak that truth, you will be one of us. That makes you orthodox. Speak anything other than that, that will make you heterodox. And if you are heterodox, you are cast out. Now, there are greater and there are different and varying ideas of what it is when we teach or we inculcate or when we exact through rote repetition those things that people ought to know. And some of them are good, but some of them are not so good. And when it leads to something like this, it's a problem. What have we heard in the news recently here in Los Angeles? The new Archbishop of the Roman Catholic Church has removed from all ceremonial offices the Cardinal Timothy Manning. And quite validly so. What did the cardinals do? And what did those men who were to be the shepherds of the people do when they met a great problem in their church? They protected the institution and not the people. And when you do that, you have exactly what the Pharisees were doing. They were protecting their institution and not the people. You know, let me tell you, if any of you ever hear about somebody receiving their sight, or when, like they have a missing arm and now they have an arm where there was no arm. If any of you ever hear about, call me. Let me know so I can go. I want to see it. I want to see it. I want to be there. I'll come back and tell you whether we should all just, as one man, run and be in that venue. I'll let you know. I'll sound, I'll subject it to all of the known tests. But if it is something that's like this, who could gainsay it? There's no magic about reproducing a limb. I mean, let's let some of these people come and try. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. And these things have a limit, so that the devil cannot and is not allowed to mimic the holy things of God. There will not be a blood sacrifice of the devil that results in everlasting life. There will not be from the devil the mysteries of the church that bring you into fullness of revelation to the gospel, so that the gospel to you is something that projects you into his final abode, into the future, where you will rest at the end of your days, or at the end of days period, should they come sooner than we might believe. But the last thing is the simplicity of this man who confesses before the Lord finally and ultimately that although he wishes to be able to worship God, that he cannot, because he does not know who he is. And wouldn't that be the thing that you should ask? I've joked about this with the deacons before. If God asks or grants you 3 questions that he will answer completely and fully, the first question you ask him is, what are the other 2 questions I should be asking you? You don't leave it up to your own intuition or your own intellect or your own experience, your own education. You don't do that. Or even the collective intellect, experience, and education of a people. You don't do that. You ask the one himself. Lord, who is he? Who is he that I may worship him? And the Lord said to him, you have both seen him, and it is he who right now is talking with you. And what about Fotini at the well? The Samaritan woman. The same confession. Who are you? The well's deep. You have no bucket. The Lord answers her. And she drops everything. She forgets why she was at the well. She runs to the people of her city and says, come see a man who told me all that ever. It's the kind of thing where you wonder why anybody would prefer the institution to the truth. But they do. Why did Cardinal Timothy Manning let all of those priests... sometimes I think about retiring from the priesthood. Right? I can do it. It's my right. I can do it. I'll always be a priest. I will always be a priest. I'll be a priest in the next life. But I can retire from service. I can retire. And I think, how would I want to have retired priest on my resume? Because of the Roman Catholics. Because there would be a suspicion. Why is this guy retired? keep your kids close when he's around. Because of the horrible, ugly decisions that were made, keeping these people that betrayed innocence. And he preferred the institution to the lives of the people. Today I was listening on the radio to someone who was saying that, this is a Protestant guy. And yes, I listen to Protestants, or Roman Catholics, or Jews, or Hindus, or anybody, because I'm pretty good at discerning the word of truth. And he said, sometimes I think that when we are building all of these great edifices, and he's talking about the big churches that the Protestants will build. Sometimes you hear about a church that has 20,000 seating capacity, or somebody will have a stadium, and they will turn this stadium into a place of worship. And he says, I wonder, because he was quoting from the prophet Micah, and Micah was saying to the Lord, you know, what is it that you have need of? Do you need these cathedrals, or you didn't call them cathedrals, of course, but do you need these places of worship? Do you need these sacrifices? Do you need that I bring 1,000 rams, yearling calves? Do you need this? And I said, no, I don't need that. And he was calling into question the fact that we have gone away from the simplicity of worship. Well, here we are. We are the most simple form of worship in this diocese, and maybe the entire United States. Now, do you think I'm going to prefer this building to any one of you? But might it not be a problem if we worked and worked and worked and we produced something that was in the aggregate millions of dollars, and we had a special place, a gymnasium for the children, and a social hall for the adults, and a big church, and a library, and a huge Sunday school facility, and then somebody went, you know, out of bounds, and we thought we might lose it all. Might I then cover up? Might I do exactly what Cardinal Timothy Manning has done? Or Cardinal Law, or any of those people that conspired to keep these things a secret. Might I do what the Jews did? Keep Jesus out of worship. Preserve the temple, but get rid of Jesus. Might it not happen to anyone? So, you know, beware. Beware the beauty that is worn. Beware the beauty that adorns you. Look for the inner beauty. Search diligently for beauty of that sort in other human beings. Search for the beauty that comes because of assiduous care and work to polish the raw gems that are inside you, each one having received enough for his own diadem or crown, so that at the end of days, like the martyrs, like the saints, you wear virtue into the next life, and people look at you and they see resplendent upon you these things that have come through your search for humility, your search for patience, your search for kindness and gentleness, your search for goodness, your search for meekness, for faith, for temperance. These kinds of things should crown you. The 9 fruits of the Holy Spirit should crown you. And not the clothes, not the cars, not the houses, not the jewelry. Because that's how the confusion takes place. The blind man The blind man saw. The people that had didn't see. It's the reason that the gospel is given in such detail. As today, the rulers were protecting what was then considered to be orthodoxy. Orthodoxy. We have to be careful. You don't think that the Orthodox Church has made mistakes? You are utterly and absolutely wrong. Every institution of men has made mistakes. There is not a single institution where men compose its numbers where there have not been mistakes. But we do not protect the edifice from the truth. Mama. If the truth is exalted, then that institution will live and thrive. And when it is not, it will become moribund, to die a slow, decaying death. I hope we all see. I hope I continue to see. I believe I see now. If there is light that is beyond the spectrum that I see, I ask the Lord to give me this light. I cross myself when at the very end we wash the vessels. And I say, "Oh Lord, to grant me wisdom and to grant me to see the things you see and to speak the things that are of you." At the very end, watch. Watch what takes place. The deacons know. Some of them pay attention. And this prayer is not said by everybody. It's not said by everybody. But if it is the desire of your heart, I would rather give up everything I have for the truth. And I say this knowing that God has the power to make it happen. I would rather give up everything I possess for the truth than to gain and gain and to increase and to not have the truth. And I hope that is the condition of everyone here. Glory be to our Lord and to his holy name, both now and ever, and to the age of all ages. Amen.